guys, it's Dave, the Action Movie Archivist, back at you with episode 3 of my action movie reviews, where I'm going to talk about the 1987 film, The Delos Adventure, written and directed by Joseph Purcell. The movie centers around a group of environmentalists and research scientists who are dispatched to an fictional uninhabited island off the coast of Chile, where they are going to install a series of seismic buoys under the pretense of monitoring, obviously, earthquake activity. Unbeknownst to the team, the majority of the team anyway, there's a bit of backroom dealing going on where the head of the research facility, played by Kurtwood Smith, who we all know and love as Red from that 70s show, has gotten together with naval intelligence, and they're actually dual purposing these buoys, not to be so much as environmental monitoring, but more of a submarine early warning system to detect the Soviets. Of course, 1987, the Cold War is still in full swing, so. Well, of course, things break down in the whole scheme of operations there, and before long, our little expedition is cut off from communications and basically stranded on the island, and it becomes a fight for survival as they're set upon by a group of commandos who have basically the opposite goal in mind. So that's it in a nutshell. Basically your story of survival as the expedition gets whittled down. Now, this is a good movie in terms of story. I've read a lot of reviews about this, and people have really trashed on it. And yeah, it's a B movie. You know, it's the movie. We know what kind of movie it is. If you're watching this, you know what kind of movie it's going to be. But the story itself is good because it is plausible, even probable, given the geopolitics and the manipulation of scientific and industrial resources by the military during the Cold War. I mean, the whole thing. It could happen. It could have happened. All this has to be done. These sensors have to be installed without the Chilean government's knowledge, because of course this is in their waters, and so they would be upset that the U.S. is basically putting their own early warning system in. So piggybacking with an environmental team doesn't sound too far-fetched to me. And that's kind of weird about when it comes to the director, because this is, like I said, this is his only film. I don't know where he came from, don't know where he went subsequent to this, but according to the interwebs, this is all he's ever written, directed, been involved with at all. So it's kind of odd, and it's an independent film. It obviously has some budget. I don't know the budget numbers, obviously, but the filming is pretty good. The cinematography isn't bad. There's a lot of underwater shots. There's, I don't know what island they filmed this on, because who knows, but they made use of the outdoor setting really well. There's a lot of good shots taking advantage of the terrain, good frames. It's shot well. It's really, it looks good for, given its budget. It was shot on film, not much I know, but given its budget and this guy's first time out. But so yeah, other than those things, much of the acting was it's B-grade stuff. It's high-end B-grade stuff. What you got a cast of characters in here. Now, I didn't even know Kurtwood was in this. If I had known, I certainly would have picked it up regardless, but he's not listed on the credits here, so when I grabbed it, I didn't know, but nice to see him in there. He's Kurtwood Smith, if you know him. He's doing his thing. The expedition actually is comprised of a few characters who've come and gone from the scene, or not characters, actors who've come and gone from Hollywood since this film. The expedition is led by a character named Denny, who is played by Jenny Neumann. Now this was her last film, for whatever reason. She made mostly television appearances prior to this, and then she disappeared from Hollywood. I think now she's a children's writer. But anyhow, she does an okay job, and I'll get more into that in a minute. Her opposite was an underwater demolitions expert named Bard. He was played by Roger Kern, who, again, just a couple of TV appearances. This was his last film. Kind of a poor man's Martin Sheen. You know, I just didn't like the guy. Really wouldn't as far as an actor. But anyway. And kind of the third major character to emerge out of the ensemble was played by Enrique Castillo. And of course, he's got a large body of work, and I think he's gotten some pretty good cred from Weeds recently. So if you're familiar with Weeds, you probably have seen Enrique. But so yeah, it's not too bad as far as acting goes. Could have been better. Could have been a hell of a lot worse. But what really brought the movie down, you know, the leads were really just not compelling talent. Like I said, they're okay. They're above average for the genre, but they just really didn't do a lot to really get you behind the characters. Kern's character, he was just kind of a, like I said, he's a braggadocio kind of macho chauvinist guy, so whatever. And the thing that I had the most problem with was Jenny's character. It's not so much Jenny's fault, but her character, when the expedition gets underway, you know, she's in charge, and the story makes a good point of letting you know that she's in charge. Things are done her way. She takes no nonsense. You know, this is her thing. She's, you know, heart and soul into this, and don't get in her way. Well, as soon as the shit hits the fan, she falls apart, and it's up to Bard to come in and you know, save the day. So that whole flip flop in her personality just didn't set with me. And again, it made it hard to get behind her character. And you know, once if you don't get behind the characters, what do you got? But so those are some major problems I had. Some of the more minor stuff. Again, with the story, it's a very slow burner. The real action didn't start till about 2/3 of the way into the film. Prior to that, you've got all sorts of setup. You know something shady's going on. It's not hard to figure out what it is, and you're just kind of waiting for something to happen, but you're not really on the edge of your seat waiting for it to happen. You know what I mean? You sort of know it's going to happen, but you know, damn it, get to it already. And when it finally does, I think they blew all their budget on the underwater shots, because when it comes to the explosions and the gunfire, all off screen, so there's really no effects, practical or otherwise. Basically, you hear gunshots in the audio, and the characters are, you know, and you don't even get the, you know, little ricochets going across the sand. So it's, you know, when it comes to that, it was kind of a drag. That and the enemy was bumbling. All right, this is supposed to be a crack team of commandos, and it's kind of like the Keystone Cops. I think there were 2 of them, possibly 3. Only 1 is credited on IMDb. But these guys were, for being, you know, as sharp as they're supposed to be and as menacing as they should be, they were bumbling. So that kind of drug it down. Another little thing that was more funny than bad was, as I spoke already of the underwater shots, were pretty nice. I mean, they're really done well considering the budget. But there was one scene in the climax that was filmed underwater or shot underwater, and it was done with miniatures, and it was just hilarious. It was basically, it looked like they had took these little toys that you would see in an aquarium and filmed that, and it just cracked me the hell up. So, you know, what are you gonna get? And then there's the soundtrack. I've got it playing a little higher. Don't know if you can actually hear it, but it's, you know, it's the 80s, so you know it's going to be synth music, but this is just bad. This is bad synth music. It's up in the mix. You can't ever get away from it. It's constant. If they'd have toned that down a little bit, that'd have been helpful. Oops, sorry, dropped the box. So yeah. Anyway, all that together, most of those gripes are minor. Like I said, the thing that really helps this movie is the story. It wasn't just completely ridiculous, but the execution was kind of so-so. So I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 stars, just a little bit below average for an 80s action movie. Could have been a little bit faster, could have gotten the action a little bit faster, could have had a little bit more convincing action. But if you don't mind those things, and if you're a fan of Kurtwood Smith, go ahead and do yourself a favor and check out the Delos Adventure. I'm not really going to recommend you check it out, but I think it's definitely worth a watch for fans like you and me who like this sort of thing. All right, guys, appreciate you hanging out, and I'll wrap this up. Sorry for being a little rusty. You know, it's that time of year, and haven't been able to get in front of the camera as much as I wanted to. Not that I like it in the first place, but I do it because what the hell? Somebody's got to. All right? Everybody take it easy, and I'll see you next time.